Tonight on Joy News Prime, Data Protection Commission to probe apparent sale of voters' data by the Electoral Commission to a third party.
If indeed the information has been sold, that's definitely a breach of the rights of individuals, and we are definitely looking into it.
Auditor General describes as untenable the payment of sitting allowances to MPs by the Ghana Export Promotion Authority. The MPs are, however, denying receiving any such payments.
Payment made to any member of parliament, and have never sat in a meeting that GEPA has been involved.
Preaches against exclusion, discrimination and poverty, warning they could potentially make the country fertile grounds for terrorism and instability. And in business.
Coming up in business, as the world marks Micro Small-Scale Businesses and Entrepreneurs Day, the Trade Ministry is urging small-scale firms to support implementation of the Continental Free Trade Agreement.
Policy that is national in character to all the institutions. So that becomes the barometer to measure that we have this list of institutions, this is the problems they have.
Now, have you ever wondered what happens to the credit balances in the mobile money wallets of your deceased relatives and friends?
It's important to note that any money that is left on your wallet cannot be taken by the telcos. It cannot even be taken by the banks that normally will hold this float.
So if the telcos say those monies don't come to them, what happens to the wallets of the dead? I'm Israel Lai, and Joy News Prime comes to you live from the Joy News studio at Kokumlimli here in Accra with digital address GA0992539. Stay tuned in. In our first story, the Data Protection Commission is to probe the apparent sale of voters' data by the Electoral Commission of Ghana to an Accra-based software development company, as found out in an audit report by the Auditor General. The special audit on the EC also revealed B Systems Limited, after acquiring the data, passed it on to financial service providers for a fee. Personal data held by organizations is protected by law, and unauthorized release of such breaches the law. The Data Protection Commission says appropriate sanctions will be applied if any such breach occurred. Here's a news desk report.
The report found that the Electoral Commission handed your electoral data to the private firm B Systems Limited, which then sold the data to financial institutions. The Auditor General says it also could not find any agreement covering the arrangement. Although B Systems made money from the sale of the data, they failed to remit the 20% commission due the Electoral Commission in respect of charges for accessing the data for the 2016 and 2017 financial years. The Executive Director of the Data Protection Commission, Patricia Edusei-Puku, says the matter will be probed.
If indeed the information has been sold, that's definitely a breach of the rights of individuals, and we are definitely looking into it.
But will you sanction if indeed
if there has been a sale of personal data with evidence that is clear in this report, then we will follow due process. I haven't read this news that you're talking about, but we will follow due process as necessary. And all stakeholders in this breach, if there is a breach, if the claim is valid, then everyone who's impacted or implicated in it will be assessed and audited for verification, and then due process will be followed.
Meanwhile, the Auditor General has asked management of the Electoral Commission to recover all outstanding commissions due it within 30 days from the date of the management letter, failing which the contract should be abrogated and the persons who approved and authorized the transaction surcharged.
Now, the audit on the EC was part of special audits carried out by the Auditor General on selected state institutions in 2018. In that same report, the Auditor General's office described as untenable that 190,000 cedis special sitting allowances were paid to MPs by the Ghana Export Promotion Authority. Part of the amount, according to the report, is also captured as honorariums given to members of Parliament, Finance, Trade, Industry and Tourism Committees. There is more in the following report.
The audit report quotes the Public Financial Management Act that requires principal spending officers of an entity to ensure the proper use of money. It notes that contrary to this legislation, between August and December 2017, the Ghana Export Promotion Authority made payments to the tune of 192,400 cedis, described as courtesies and protocols, special and sitting allowances to all the members and supporting staff of Parliamentary Select Committees on Trade, Industry and Tourism, Finance and the Women's Caucus in Parliament. It further states that the committee members did not sign the claim sheets to acknowledge receipts of the monies purportedly paid to them. The Auditor General therefore handed the authority a lifeline to justify the payment or have the former Director of Finance refund the amount. The authority agreed with the recommendation, stating that they will provide the appropriate justifications with documentation to substantiate the payments. A former Deputy CEO, Akilu Saibu, and a former staff member have also been directed to refund an amount of 23,562.50 cedis, which the Auditor General captures as an earned clothing allowance.
Parliament's finance committees have denying claims by the Auditor General that its members received unjustifiable payments from the Ghana Export Promotion Authority. Ranking member on Parliament's Finance Committee, Kassel Atuforsing, says he is unaware of any such payments.
I have read the document, but I can only tell you that I am not privy to any payment made to any member of Parliament, and have never sat in a meeting that GEPA has been involved. So I cannot speak for Parliament, I cannot speak for everybody. I can speak for myself that I have never been in a meeting with GEPA or engaged them in any way to warrant any payment from them.
Would it be normal for members of the committee to visit a state institution and take any honorariums, sitting allowances, per diems of any sort from any such state institution?
It depends. It depends. You cannot conclude. Ministry of Trade, for instance, the Trade Committee has an oversight responsibility on GEPA. So in the course of their function, they may have performed some function. In fact, I am not part of the Trade Committee for me to speak to them. So I may not be the right person to speak since they perform that function.
But it's also mentioned in the Finance Committee as one of the committees.
That's what I'm trying to say, that I'm the ranking member of the Finance Committee. I have not visited GEPA in any capacity. I don't even know where their office is and how the office look like. And I've never sat in a meeting that GEPA has appeared before us, so I don't know anything about it.
For you, is it normal, would it be worrying that any set payment should have been done and the Auditor General is really flagging it and thinking there is no justification?
The Auditor General has a responsibility to audit state institutions. So the Auditor General may have come out with his observations. It is referred to the Public Account Committee of Parliament to look at it and invite the relevant institutions. So I can assure you that the Public Account Committee will hold a meeting. They will invite the relevant committees that has been cited in the report. In fact, in the case of Finance Committee, I may be invited, the chairman may be invited, and we'll go there and present our fact. If it is contrary to the audit report, then we can deal with it from there.
The minority in Parliament is alleging government has misappropriated 440 million Ghana cedis of all revenue. A report of Parliament's Finance Committee on PIAC's 2018 semi-annual report raised concern about the non-utilization of the amount since 2017 because it was not captured in the 2018 budget. Government has indicated it will come to Parliament for approval soon on what to use it for. But ranking member on the Finance Committee of Parliament, Kassel Atuforsing, says the money has been misused.
An amount of 400 million being part of our oil money was unspent, claimed to have been unspent for the year 2017. For the year 2018, another amount of 200 million Ghana cedis claimed to be unspent. So the two put together approximately 600 million Ghana cedis. Ministry of Finance excuse is that it is not yet in the Appropriations Act, and the amount is sitting in the Treasury single account. The irony is that they spent 700 million Ghana cedis on delayed payment. So if you have that kind of money sitting down, why do you delay and pay 700 million in penalties? The money is sitting down. We are seeing potholes everywhere. So my point is that 700 million, they can give it to Ministry of Roads at the minimum. 600 million, give it to Ministry of Roads at the minimum. Let them fix our roads. So we'll follow through follow through, in fact, line by line in the media review, and you can count on me on that. I will make sure that is done. If he fails to do that, we'll take actions against the Minister of Finance.
Why do you think they have the money sitting down and they've not done anything?
As to whether the money is even there is the first place.
So you suspect?
I suspect it has been misappropriated. I suspect it has been misappropriated. Because for 2017-2018, and they cannot name the account that it is there. They told Piak it's in the TSA. What is TSA? TSA is not a single account. So they should tell us, and we would demand proof of where the amount is. We have a dedicated account for ABFA. So where is the money? Where is the money? The money is missing. In fact, Sikan Ayira.
MP for New Jobbing South, Dr. Marcus Ibiabwa earlier told Parliament there are plans for the money to be used soon.
In response to whether the 2017 allocation of 400 million has been disbursed as required, the ministry said that it was yet to. It explained that the current government procurement procedure for capital assets creates undue delays. As a result, the ministry was unable to timeously process related payments before the repeal of the 2017 Appropriations Act. Unfortunately, the disbursements under the 400 million cedis expenditure were also not captured in the 2018 Appropriations Act. The Ministry of Finance therefore opined that there is a need for the Ministry of Finance to come to Parliament to seek approval in order to effect the required payments.
Saying in Parliament, the minority says Ghanaians who communicate on mobile phones are at risk of having the communication intercepted by third parties following breakdown in some equipment of monitoring firm Kelney GVG. The company has been handed a contract to monitor calls and ensure revenues declared by the telecom companies are accurate. The $89 million contract was approved despite opposition by civil society groups and the minority in Parliament. Member of the committee, Sam George, says equipment that could have prevented monitoring of calls and text is not functioning.
I'm challenging the Ministry of Communication and the National Communications Authority and Kelney GVG to state and spell to Ghanaians what is the state of the probes that were inserted into the telcos systems as part of the Kelney GVG process. You remember Imani Ghana raised a number of issues, and Imani Ghana came back and told you they had settled those issues because filtering patches had been installed to make sure that they encrypted the calls and messages so that nobody could listen into your call and read your message or my message. I'm saying on authority that the filtering patches are not working. I'm saying on authority that the MNOs have raised concerns about those filtering patches. Again, I'm saying on authority that for that sake, the MNOs have sought legal advice and made an insertion of a clause in the service level agreement with Kelney GVG for indemnity on their part, such that when you or myself decide to sue the MNOs for breach of our confidentiality, which they have with us, they are indemnified and Kelney GVG and NTA will be responsible for it. Why is Kelney GVG having probes that have access to our real-time conversations and real-time messages?
And the consequence of this is that what? They can monitor and listen to
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, if they can get in real time without any filtering patch that encrypts and prevents them from listening in real time, your guess is as good as mine. Again, let's ask ourselves, what has happened in terms of revenue? Kelney GVG has been on for a year, about a year now, if not more. Can they show us evidence of increased revenue that is commensurate to the 1.5 million we are paying a month to Kelney GVG? And Kelney GVG is using NTA's electricity and NTA's ground space. Okay, look, it's a sad fraud that is being perpetrated on the people of Ghana.
Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia is preaching against exclusion, discrimination and poverty, warning the existence of such can potentially make the country fertile for terrorism and instability. According to him, initiatives such as the One District, One Factory, Free Senior High School and One Village, One Dam are deliberately designed to build the architecture that will drive all-inclusive governance with the ultimate target of preventing instability. He was addressing a symposium organized by the Islamic Center for Education and Development.
We're putting in place structures and measures, an architecture that is for inclusion, because once you have exclusion, once you have discrimination, once you have poverty, then you are building the foundation for instability and the foundation for terrorism that people will take advantage of. We have to be very clear that we are building an inclusive society for the peace and stability of our society. Joblessness, the lack of education, lack of access to financial services, and all of that breed exclusion. They breed, you know, a lot of anger amongst the youth, and people can take advantage of that. So we are moving, and we have to make sure we have inclusive transformation so that everybody can benefit. And once we have that, I am sure that peace and stability, inshallah, is going to follow and continue to be the case in Ghana.
Well, Chairman of the National Peace Council, Reverend Emmanuel Asante, backs the all-inclusive agenda, saying it will defeat extremist ideas. You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break, but still ahead in the bulletin. As the world marks micro, small-scale businesses and entrepreneurs day, the Trade Ministry is urging small-scale firms to support the implementation of the Continental Free Trade Agreement that's coming up in business. And then, have you ever wondered what happens to the credit balances and the mobile money wallets of your deceased relatives and friends?
To note that any money that is left on your wallet cannot be taken by the telcos. It cannot even be taken by the banks that normally will hold this float.
So if the telcos say those monies don't come to them, what happens to the wallets of the dead? We have that story coming up in the bulletin. But right after this, we're bringing you the story on the businessman Alfred Agbeshi-Woyome facing fresh criminal charges. Do stay tuned in. Now, businessman Alfred Agbeshi-Woyome could face fresh criminal charges following a failed bid to halt the sale of his assets to defray a nearly 5-year-old debt to the state. Deputy Attorney General Godfred Dame told journalists the state will press criminal charges against the businessman for colluding with the defunct bank to stop the sale of the assets. It comes in the wake of a Supreme Court decision giving the Attorney General the green light to sell properties belonging to the businessman worth 20 million cedis. Court correspondent Joseph Akable has the rest of the story.
An Accra High Court on March 12, 2015 acquitted and discharged Mr. Woyome of the charges of defrauding by false pretense and causing financial loss to the state. The AG's office subsequently took the matter to the Court of Appeal, but that court confirmed the High Court's decision. Despite these decisions in favor of the businessman, the Supreme Court found that the payment of 51.2 million cedis was wrongful and ordered that he repays the money. As at January 2017, the businessman had only paid 4 million cedis, leaving 47.2 million cedis outstanding. Deputy AG Godfred Dame commenced a series of legal processes, including orally cross-examining Mr. Woyome to identify his assets. Receivers for defunct UT Bank joined the case as they maintained some of the properties on the radar of the AG belonged to the bank. The Supreme Court, presided over by Justice Benin, however, ruled on Thursday that the alleged sale of properties is a sham. He said the bank was simply colluding with the businessman. Deputy AG Godfred Dame says the state is satisfied with the decision.
So the decisions of the court were quite clear that the claim by UT Bank and Anato Holdings Limited were all a sham. In respect to the claim by UT Bank, the court indicated that it was actually a collusion, as the Attorney General alleged, was an effort to collude with the judgment debtor to avoid a satisfaction of the judgment debt. And that to me is very significant. To me, it holds a lot of significance for accountability and the rule of law, that indeed you cannot pillage or deprive the state of funds and then resort to all manner of tactics just to avoid a satisfaction of the judgment debt given against you. And to me, it goes a long way for establishing and consolidating the rule of law, and also it's a shot to the arm for the fight against impunity and lack of accountability. So it has a lot of significance for accountability as far as I'm concerned. I'm very much satisfied by the way.
There is, however, a pending case against Ghana filed by Mr. Woyoma at the African Court on Human and People's Rights. Mr. Dame is confident the state will get a favorable decision.
Well, I expect it to go in our favor. But first and foremost, it's not a human rights claim. There is no human rights offense that has been violated. And also, this decision was a constitutional matter. It is one in the sole preserve of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the highest court of Ghana. And I do not think that any court whatsoever can give any ruling to override the Supreme Court of Ghana's decision. So I'm not bothered at all. Even if the Supreme Court, even if the African Court of Human Rights were to give any adverse ruling unreasonably, it's something that will not be enforceable in the courts of Ghana. And I say so because if our constitution is quite clear, the constitution is a primary law of Ghana, and that is what regulates the prosecution of the matter in Ghana, and it sets the Supreme Court as the highest court of Ghana. And it is so, especially in terms of constitutional matters. It was clearly a constitutional action, and it was a sole preserve mandate to the Supreme Court of Ghana. The Supreme Court of Ghana has ruled today to them giving their mandate, allowing the execution. So I'm not bothered about what's going to happen in Tanzania tomorrow. But
he has also indicated that criminal charges will be filed against the businessman.
And as we continued right from the beginning, the claims were collusive, and the court having so found that Woyoma attempted to collude with a bank to prevent an execution of judgment against him. To me, it's really an act that the state can take him on in terms of criminal prosecution, whatever. Clearly, this is something that I will consider prosecuting him for crime. And as you remember, I indicated, well, in all the effort that were made by Woyoma to avoid subtraction judgment debts, that there's a day of reckoning will come. Until the day of reckoning, then to God be the glory.
The properties to be sold by the state include 2 houses at Razako Estates, a house at Puhe in Accra, a quarry at Mafi in the Volta region, and some cars.
Well, President of the African Court on Human and People's Rights that will be delivering judgment in the case filed by Mr. Woyoma on Friday, however, says they expect Ghana to enforce the court's decision. Now, the businessman has been reacting, and he is challenging the valuation of his properties. Alfred Agbesi Woyoma also disagrees a ruling of the African Court on Human and People's Rights will not have any bearing on the state's intended action.
That direction, we are all waiting for, but the government refused and started dawn raids in my houses and my own house with military men. Raids.
How many of those?
A lot of military men came to my house here. Joy FM, you covered it.
Yeah.
Yes, to say that they are coming to measure the dimensions of the house. They broke into Trasako, did the same thing there. Another place. They went there and did all that they can do without a court order. That they were taking valuations. I can hear them talking about some values.
20 million is currently.
Which is, where did they get that figure from?
Of course, but if they are broken into your house to do valuations,
what valuation? They come and measure the land and everything. Valuation is different. There must be an independent valuer. You are the judgment creditor. Did the court appoint an independent valuer?
Did the court appoint one?
No. I don't know of one. I don't know of one. So if now they want to talk about a value, they must go back to the court.
Okay.
For the court to appoint an independent valuer, and we all will have to agree on the value before they start throwing out figures.
Is it that you are disputing the amount to be more
excuse me,
than the actual amount?
Because there could be corruption there.
I don't get you.
You don't get me. I'm disputing that amount because it is not true. What they are stating.
Way higher or lower than the amount?
Far, far lower.
Far lower.
Look, 2 residential property. Mm-hmm. This very property here, and a quarry. $1 million is equal to about 5 million cedis.
Yeah.
The properties they are talking about, is it worth 1 million, 2 million, 3 million?
But you know it.
Exactly. So I'm not going to throw about figures. You understand me?
You can't dispute it if you have the actual figure.
Can you sit in your house for somebody to come and tell this house is worth, you are owing me, and I'm taking it, this is how much it's worth? I have explained to you that it is not done that way.
Okay.
The court must appoint, and the court must agree on figures of each one of the property you are talking about.
Before you enter into another place that you are going to do, you must have also a court order to go there.
All of this is not happening?
Not happening.
You are not privy to any independent value?
It has never happened, and they have not entered the premises with any court orders.
I see.
Okay? That's one. I have been law-abiding and trying very much to respect the courts. So we've been attending the courts. Although every time, periodically, we give report to the African court as to what is happening here.
All right, and the businessman Alfred Agbeshi Woyome agreed to speak with Joy News on condition that he wasn't going to show his face, and that's why in that interview you do not see him, but you can hear his voice. We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime, and we're bringing you business news next. And coming up in business, as the world marks micro, small businesses and entrepreneurs day, the Trade Ministry is urging small-scale firms to support implementation of the Continental Free Trade Agreement. Do stay tuned in. Of course, and we have that story about mobile money wallets and what happens to those of the deceased. Do stay tuned in. Stay with money, because the question about what becomes of the credit balance on the mobile money wallets of subscribers when they die has got many accusing the telcos of illegally appropriating such funds. Though the amounts may not amount to much in a lot of cases, the growing popularity of the payment platform has meant that a lot more funds are being moved onto it. It is estimated that a whopping 233 billion cedis was moved via mobile money in 2018. So what happens to the credit balances that debt subscribers would leave behind? Now, when I brought up the conversation on Facebook 3 weeks ago, most of the 500 people who posted comments had never thought about it. So I asked the Chief Executive of the Ghana Chamber of Telecoms, Kenneth Ashibe.
Most of the time, most of these wallets do not carry a lot of money.
Yeah.
So you find out that most of the mobile money operators would have next of kin, and you need to put the name there, you need to put, a number there. So what would happen is that if somebody dies, you can go with an ID of yours as a beneficiary, and then you would also have to prove that the person is dead. So you need to be able to go with a death certificate to go and say that Mr. A or Miss B, who had an account with you, is dead, and my name is in there as the beneficiary. They will do the necessary checks, and then they'll be able to pay the money to you.
Except a lot of the time, you wouldn't really know that somebody has made you next of kin. How do you get to know that you've been made next of kin?
Well, the interesting thing is that for the mobile money operator, how would they know that the person is dead? You see, so it's important for all of us that when we are signing these documents, it's not only mobile money. Sometimes it's even, as NITs, we don't take these things seriously. Nobody says somebody should die, but you see, one of the things that is very, would happen certain is the fact that will die. So once you make somebody a next of kin, it's important that you let the person know that the person is a next of kin. So all I would advise is that if you know that your relative, has been using mobile money for his transactions, and you are the person who is inheriting the person, So if there's a will, you don't even know that. You can go with the will, you can, with your ID, with a death certificate, go to any mobile money operator and go and say that this is what has happened. Even if you don't know there's an account there, they will definitely do the checks for you. And then if they are found that legally you can have access to the funds, it will be given to you. You should bear in mind that, I can put your name in there as next of kin. But if after that, I make a will, and the will is after that, and the will says that the fund should go to somebody else, because the will comes after this next of kin transaction, it is the person on the will who would be a beneficiary to the money.
Except that it turns out that most people, we've been talking about the materiality of things and of these amounts, and indeed most of the people wouldn't really think about willing or indicating in their will who gets the money or the balance on their mobile money wallet. So if that doesn't happen, these funds are just going to be sitting there, and that's why people think that the mobile money operators or telcos end up taking these
but you see, the interesting thing is that by the very nature of the way we operate our mobile money in Ghana, the monies don't sit. with the telcos. The money sits with the banks. And fortunately for us, even before the passing of this bill, Bank of Ghana has been regulating the electronic money issuers very strictly. And the procedure is that once an account goes dormant, it would move into a dormant mode. The telco, the mobile money operators will keep it for a while. And after that, it has to move to the central bank.
Yeah.
So even if you don't know, that money cannot go to
end up with the telcos.
No, it cannot. Even not with the banks that keep the float. And the central bank, because of the fact that at the central bank, if it's 100 years and all of that, maybe it would revert to the state.
We've been having this conversation on, so it started on social media, and the conversations, it appears people are saying, if you look at the processes you have to go through to retrieve such funds, it's about the same as you retrieving funds from the bank.
Yeah.
But these monies may not be that significant. So if they are not that significant, we should find other ways of going about it, or making the process as simple as possible so that you don't require one to go and get secure letters of administration and all that. And at the end of the day, come back and get only 100 cedis on their mobile
So
money.
you see, that's true. And that's why, you find out that for most of the mobile money operators, they do the next of kin. So once the next of kin is there and your name is there, you go with a debt. But you see, you need to establish that the person is there, because you don't want to leave room and somebody, because I've traveled, somebody would now come and collect my money. So you need to establish that the person is dead. You need to establish that you are the person who is the next of kin. So generally, you would not have to go through the LA route. The only thing that might happen
Are you saying that you don't have to go through the letters of registration procedure before you secure the funds?
No, for the very first time, no. If you go and you have an ID, you have your death certificate that shows that you are the next of kin, the money will be given to you through that process.
All right.
But we should bear in mind that mobile money has changed the way it's, even on the mobile money wallets, there are pensions that are on it. So if you're running a mobile money and you have a pension scheme that you are undertaking, it means that is money that is going to come to you either in your pension or when you are no more. So I think it's important for all of us Ghanaians, and we need to be able to educate all of us that mobile money has moved away from where it's just the issue of using it to transfer money. It's people using it to do business. And the interesting thing is that all the mobile money operators pay interest on their account. So there are some people who that's the only bank they have.
Yeah.
So they keep money on that. So let's not take it for granted. And I think it's important that we educate everybody that as you operate it, and for most of the people who are also doing it, the first time people who are doing mobile money, this is the only way they are coming into the financial system. So they don't even know, like the way if you have had a bank account, that you need to let other people know, you need to make sure when you're doing your will, you have to, or the fact that immediately somebody dies. When we do the LA, the first thing we do is to go to the person's bank. So what would have to happen is that in as much as you go to the person's bank, you should also be able to go to the person's mobile money operator
wallet
and make sure you can go and retrieve the funds that.
Now, whilst we're talking about credit balances, there are also instances where some of these people actually have debit balances on their accounts because they take loans, mobile money loans and all that. How are the telcos dealing with that as well?
You see, this is a space that is evolving, and even I'll tell you with the banks, it's difficult for them coming out at people who, when the person is dead, and so and again, it's the materiality of it, so if somebody's taking, and those loans are not huge loans, so the cost of going to retrieve that, so it's a risk that the telcos would have to take, that when the person passes, what means are you securing those loans? Though they are unsecured, you need to find a way of securing them.
All right, so now it's not too late for you to go to the telcos and find out whether a deceased relative or friend has some money sitting on their mobile money, in their mobile money wallet. Except you may go there and they'll tell you there's a loan to be paid, which wouldn't be too pleasant, right? An open drain running through Washington, a suburb in Medina here in Accra, is swallowing homes and wreaking havoc as the rains continue to pour. Some residents living in homes there were forced to flee during a recent downpour when parts of the building caved in. Konadum visited the area and reports several homes and structures continue to hang dangerously along the drain as residents blame authorities for abandoning a planned construction more than a year ago.
But for the alertness of a few neighbors, a child would have been swept away by raging floodwaters running through an open drain at Washington in the La Nkwantanai municipality. The child reportedly tumbled off a makeshift footbridge over the drain that day. Even that bridge is almost falling apart.
We are told by community folk was constructed by them to allow children cross over from one side to the other. But as you can see, some of the wooden bars are hanging dangerously. Some are essentially falling apart. Look at this. And from what the residents tell us, it is such a chore crossing over from one side to the other, especially with the children. It is extremely difficult for them because they may easily fall over.
These residents say they are fed up and are demanding a permanent fix.
The child fell into the drain on his way to school. Luckily, we were around to rescue him.
We built this bridge with our little contributions, but it's deteriorated now. We need help.
Because area hanum say yedoso school nkola na ye fa so by stand so no to anso no hayen ebubu dan bebre school nkola fa ejuma for fa.
Children especially are at risk when using this bridge. Many people use this bridge.
And I NGO obi obetumi abo ayen yesu kakra kra we so betumi dey den aka ho netumi aye footbridge.
But even more worrying is this. Some houses hanging thinly on the edges of an over 6 feet wide open drain with the foundation virtually eating away.
This is actually the base of a building which is hanging dangerously, as you can see, as a result of the flood waters. We understand this drain that was here was a very small drain, many meters away from where I stand, but officials had been dredging and creating this gallows to ensure that a bigger drain is constructed, and as a result left the place open. And whenever it rains, flood waters smash into the earth, wash away portions of the earth, and this is what it has left in its wake. Residents tell me that at the last rainfall, occupants of this building had to be evacuated because of the danger it posed.
Residents say a promise to have the drain, which was then less than 2 feet wide, properly constructed, has not been fulfilled nearly 2 years since excavators were brought in to widen the channels.
205.
It used to be a small gutter, but they told us they were opening it up to properly construct it. But to date, we see no works. Our homes get flooded anytime it rains.
Many other areas in this community have poor drainage systems, and portions of the road networks have been eroded. While occupants of a building which caved in have fled, other residents staying behind say they would not look on for erosion to eventually threaten their lives. They are demanding immediate construction of a drain.
The floods smashed my wall. The drains were not properly done.
Meanwhile, a member of parliament for the Medina constituency, Boniface Abubakar Sadiq, says the project has stalled because of unavailability of funds. He told my colleague Yusuf Opoku-Gakpo in parliament only 500,000 cedis out of the 1 million per constituency allocation has been made available to the project. On claims the project has been abandoned, Boniface Abubakar Sadiq said he is committed to fixing the problem for residents in the area.
I
I saw that the whole area, they never had drains. You see how it is. And I had the opportunity with Ministry of Special Development Initiative. Spoke to them. MP was entitled to some funds. And so I got 400,000 to fix part of the drains. Recently, part of it, there was a heavy rainfall which affected the house. I had to go there. If the community will bear the truth with me, I was there. And as I speak to you now, the contractor has not been paid, but he's finished the job. And the money is not something to fix.
The job? The claim is that it's
amount of money. It's not abandoned, because even when I brought in the contractor to do the job, there were people who came around to say that it was the landlords there who had contributed to do the job. I went there to tell them that I am there to fix, make sure that I listen to their concern, and brought in the contractor. The money available was limited. Every MP was convinced that at the end of the day you will get the 1 million, but it was not forthcoming.
So that's probably part of the problem. That
so they should
1 million hasn't come in.
No MP or district has gotten, or constituency has gotten the 1 million. But the point was that it was available 500,000 for every constituency, and I used 400,000 in part of the 500 for Washington alone. So they should be very grateful that I have decided to use that 500,000, 400 out of it for that place. And I'm still struggling to make sure that I continue the project. You don't say the contractor has abandoned the place.
So what next? When will the whole project eventually be completed?
As soon as funds become available. The major drain has been awarded. The Zongo drain has been awarded to a contractor. Medina, Washington is just what I'll say artillery drains. These are not major drains, but it affects me because when it rains, it washes a lot of sand away and it affects the road. I'm very committed as soon as it is fixed, because I want the whole place to be reshaped so that the residents there will also have a feel of being in the city.
The family of a 26-year-old man lynched and set ablaze at Amwam at Chiase, where 2 kidnapped Canadian nationals were recently rescued, is demanding justice. Driver's mate Wahab Sabani was attacked by a mob following shouts of thief at a stranger by the chief of the town in broad daylight. Family spokesperson Mohammed Mumuni Zakari says the body will not be buried until they get justice for their deceased relative. Ohim Interior has more.
Amwam Achiase was recently in the news when 2 kidnapped Canadian nationals were rescued by security operatives. This time around is for the killing and burning of a driver's mate by residents. On the 20th of this month, Sabani, believed to have suffered mental disability due to high fever, left his Aswansi family house unnoticed. He trekked along a familiar route he had been plying as a driver apprentice, found himself at Amwam Achiase Palace, about 30 kilometers from home. On seeing him, the chief, Nanakwesi Babu II, reportedly fired 3 warning shots before shouting armed robber, which attracted a mob. The crowd lynched him, put a lorry tie around his neck, and set Shabani's body on fire. Police at Ejuso later retrieved the largely burnt body and deposited it at Jabin Hospital morgue. Mohammed Mumuni Zakari is family spokesperson.
Sabani, our brother, on that fateful day, 20th, around 2 o'clock, came to Achim Achanse, walked into the chief house, and the chief shouted on him and pulled a gun and gave a 3 warning shot, and the guy was still standing. So the chief started shouting, calling people, that's armed robber, armed robber. When the people came, they came and arrested Sabani, beat Sabani, dragged him some few meters away from the chief house and set him ablaze. Before we got there, the police at Ejisu has already taken the dead body away. So that was the information we had from some of the drivers. But all of them, that they were surprised because the community that they killed Sabani, many people knows him because Sabani, as a trotro mate, worked in that community.
Police have since arrested Nana Babu and alleged accomplice Akwesiedu, who were arraigned and remanded in police custody to reappear on the 10th of next month. Shabani's relatives, however, want police to widen the scope of investigation in order to find all those involved in the criminal acts. Mr. Zakari says the family will not bury the body until they get justice for him.
We need justice because Sabani is never a thief. We have more than 500 youth, 500 people that can testify that Sabani is never a thief. So all what we need now, we need justice for our brother. But currently we can't bury him without seeing no justice, because the youth is not ready to take it. The youth is calling for justice, is calling on all the stakeholders and government to come in so that our brother will get justice, because this kind of killing is something that is not acceptable.
From Kumasi, for Joy News, Parliamentary reporting.
So how do you know your child is doing cannabis when they are not smoking but eating it? Well, the Narcotics Control Board says even though the situation is alarming, it can still be managed if parents develop closeness to their children and monitor their performance in school. Head of Education at NACOP, Sylvester Kumsing, says operatives are on the ground to check abuse of cannabis and to encourage young people to resist the attempts to get them into drugs. But majority of the responsibility lies with the parent. He spoke on the pulse earlier, where he also lists signs the parents should look out for as proof the child is doing drugs.
The issue is more peculiar with students. So what we are saying here is that the responsibility of parent is very paramount. People are abusing it though, but because we are also on the ground, so we are able to manage with the situation. The parents become the first point of contact. So it is very, very important for parents to have enough, I'm using the word enough time. It doesn't mean that you spend the whole day with the children, but you should know who your children are, the type of friends they have, even the school that they are, the classroom, the teacher, the gap between after school, before you get home or whatever. We need to know all those things. We need to know their performance. All this is very important, and we need to listen to them as well, because when you have time for them, they identify with you. Once you're able to establish that, before even you goes to secondary school, you have been able to establish that relationship. What you are doing is that you are developing that child's system to resist any negative influence over that child. If you realize that your child's performance is reducing, it should be a cause of concern. You might have a child who is very friendly, and all of a sudden you see that child withdrawing. You should be concerned about it. Or all of a sudden you see that child having different kinds of friends, or going up there and coming in very late. You should be concerned. Or all of a sudden it becomes very rebellious. When you talk back. You should be concerned. Or seeing other paraphernalia, other items like strings, seeing some, weed symbols, having those things around him, you should also be concerned. So these are some of the signs that you have to look up for.
Now, Accra Academy narrowly escaped elimination from the National Science and Maths quiz as it took just the last round to see them qualify to the next stage of the competition. They beat TI, Amas, Fomina and Ebuakwa State College with 34 points. The Blow boys, who spoke with Joy News, say they will go back and correct their mistakes ahead of the quarterfinals clash with Tepa SHS and St. John's Grammar.
Accra followers, oh, come and talk to me. Come and talk to me. How are you feeling at the moment?
Oh, I'm very excited at their performance. We are happy they are going to the quarterfinals. We are winning.
Were you scared?
Oh no, I was just calm. I have it naturally. Not in DD, but Charlie.
Were you also scared?
I was very scared because most of the questions they were getting wrong were things that were actually very simple. We had already practiced them, but then in the riddles, no school can fit a cracker, so I'm not surprised. No school. A cracker blow.
How are you feeling right now?
I feel relieved.
Were you scared at the very beginning?
No, please.
You were not scared?
No.
Because some of your people I was sitting by, they were scared that you were not going to qualify until round 5. How did you feel sitting? I'm sure that you were feeling the pressure actually.
Yes, because the way the marks were close and there was a lot of pressure, but God being so good, we were able to qualify.
Let me also come to you. What do you think happened? What do you think went wrong? Is this the results you were expecting?
No, this wasn't the result we were actually expecting, but we are grateful to God for seeing us through, first of all. But what this is telling us is that we have a lot to do, and that's what we'll do. And then when we come back, we'll come back strong. In
the next contest, you'll be meeting Tepa Senior High School and St. John's Grammar Senior. St. John's Grammar kicked out Bishop Herman College. What would you be expecting? What should we be expecting from Accra Academy, the Below Boys?
Yes, you said they kicked out Bishop Herman. This is Accra Castle. Like, there's a difference.
And so you have the contestants from Accra Academy. Yes, they say that they're not so impressed, but they would go back and do their homeworks and then come back later in the quarterfinals to beat Tepa Senior High School and also Tepa Senior High School and also St. John's Grammar that beat Bishop Herman College earlier today. But let me see that tomorrow morning we're going to have a very interesting contest between Prempeh College, Laboni Senior High School, and Atibubu Senior High School. One contest a lot of people are looking forward to. Trust Joy News to bring you all the updates.